All right, everybody. Well, welcome. I am Dan Tribely, health coach at Epic Functional Medicine, and excited to help wrap up day 5 of our July 2021 Wellness Week. If you guys have been following along, I hope that there's even been at least just one thing, if not many things, that were some takeaways for you that would just help you to move forward in growing in your personal well-being, your health, and happiness, as they like to say. It's not only just about being happy, but being well and having a life fuller of joy. So, with that said, today we are going to jump into talking about I feel is an interesting topic: strength versus cardio exercise. And in fact, let me get my Facebook thing put over here and out of the way. Get myself oriented. So the question and the topic of today is, which is better for weight loss, strength training or cardio? Which is better for overall health, strength training or cardio? So those are some of the things I'm going to do a little bit of a dive in today as well. I'm sure either one of those questions might be something interesting that you or others have wondered or pondered for yourself one way or the other. And so with that said, if you haven't watched one of these before and you're joining me live, welcome. And I'm so excited to have you join me here. Feel free to post in the comments as I chat along, and bring up a question or something. If there's something you want to bring to the discussion, we might consider that in what we'll talk about today. If you're watching this later, again, this is just recorded right in the Epic Community group Facebook page here for you. So watch as much as you like anytime, and feel free to still post comments. Love interaction, because what you share, somebody else might be thinking or wondering and looking to help there too. So thankful for all of you guys in this community, and continue to spread the message, and also just sharing what you've learned with others and learning from others as they share with you. Alrighty, hang on here. The coworker might be joining here. Okay, never mind. I thought one of my coworkers was going to be joining me here. So with that said, let's jump in. So as a little preface here, I'm curious as to, ask yourself, like, what would you answer? Like, what's better for overall health and for weight loss? Cardio or strength training? And probably in the back of your mind, you're probably like, well, it's probably a little of both, right? Probably, but let's just jump in. So I don't know about you guys. I know for me growing up that there's kind of just this, like, over time, just after years and years of just observing, people going for a jog on the sidewalk, or somebody's going for a long bike run, and they're like, I love exercise, and I just feel great when I do it. And then you couple that with noticing, those people tend to be, slimmer, or they're in shape, whatever, and they love to exercise, and exercise is good for you, right? And so you take all of that and throw in decades of that observation, and it can kind of it can lead. I know for me, for a time, I kind of had this subconscious thought of, like, oh yeah, like, look at those really healthy people, and wow, he can jog 10 miles at a stretch. He must be so healthy. And I know and that might be true, right? Don't get me wrong. Me saying that in maybe a slightly sarcastic tone isn't implying that person's not healthy. It's not necessarily true. Might not be, but it's not necessarily true. So I don't know how many of you guys have maybe had this thought for yourself, or know somebody, or have a friend who's like, classic New Year's resolutions, right? Like, okay, I'm going to hit the gym and I'm going to get on the elliptical. I'm going to start jogging. It's like our default pattern for a lot of people is, I need to hit the treadmill or start doing something that is what we call sustained, no, steady state cardio. There we go. I don't know what I was going to say. Steady state cardio, i.e., a steady state cardio is a cardiovascular exercise that is in a steady rhythm, hence steady state. So this would be jogging. You keep to a consistent pace and you jog for a good while. Or you're riding, you're on your bicycle. It'll be less steady state if you're actually, real life outdoor bicycling. But if you're on an indoor bicycle machine, usually you're going at a certain pace and you're seeing how long can I go, right? So endurance type of things. That is often, what steady state cardio implies. And so we get into this thinking, I need to do more running and then I'll burn more calories, lose some weight, and I'll also get healthier too along the way. And that is a common route and just kind of a funnel we can find ourselves into. And not this is again, I'm just speaking in general. Not all of you guys will agree with that in your own life's experience, or maybe kind of have that same line of thinking. But I know back in the 70s and onwards or so, it seems like running took off quite a lot. And that kind of was a point in our history, at least in U.S. history and probably other countries too, where again, that there's just kind of a big movement. Everybody's like running. We're gonna do a lot more running. So there is a cultural, historical background here that's kind of led to this. And so again, there's that belief perception of to lose weight, I need to hit the treadmill. And I've been very fascinated to learn that that's not actually true. That's not the only part of the story, the only side of the coin here. The question I want to pose is there merit to steady state cardio, jogging, walking, cycling, all that stuff, to being, the main way we go about feeling healthier, losing weight, if weight loss is one of your desires and goals and all that kind of stuff. All right. Usually, I do want you guys to know when I say losing weight, it's about losing weight healthily, not in drastic, fast paces due to self deprivation, but due to dietary and other healthy lifestyle changes that lead to your body being more of its optimal, natural gravitate state of weight. So please hear me on that. I just wanted to. I realize I might get ahead of myself, assuming that context people are on the same page with me in that context. So again, when I think weight loss, I think that's coupled with feeling better and healthier, not just for the sake of weight loss, like that kind of thing. So let's first look at what are the benefits of cardio? What are the benefits of strength training? There's a lot of them. And I know for a fact these two lists I'm going to read for you guys are incomplete, probably. All right. There's a couple of them. So I'm going to read from healthline.com, exercise or aerobic exercise benefits here. And here we go. So for cardio, aerobic exercise, improves cardiovascular health. That one makes sense. It's in the name. Lowers blood pressure, helps regulate blood sugar, reduces asthma symptoms, reduces chronic pain, aids in our sleep, regulates weight, strengthens the immune system, improves brain power. Last few here, boosts our mood, reduces risk of falls, safe for most people, including kids. So from a practical standpoint, definitely agree with that. It's very accessible. And and number 13, affordable and accessible. There we go. So I have looked at that list before, but it's been a while. So that's kind of funny how that worked itself out. So yeah. So again, just going really quick, cardiovascular and therefore aerobic benefits is improving cardio health, lowering blood pressure, regulate the blood sugar, reduce asthma, reduce chronic pain, help your sleep, regulate your weight, strengthen your immune system, improve your brain power, boost your mood, reduce risk of falls. And it's also from a practical standpoint, going for a jog or cycling, things like that are they are accessible and there is a lower bar for skill and tools to be able to engage in those things. And that is really important consideration. All right, so let's contrast this to strength training benefits. So I got 11 strength training benefits. This is from, let's see, ucsd.edu, University of California, my goodness, San Diego, I believe is what that UCSD stands for. Here we go. Loading the page here. I decided not to share my screen because you just never know, and you get like weird like advertisements and pop-ups and stuff that just kind of get in the way. And so I just figured I'd save you guys the hassle of that. So 11 benefits of strength training. Well, number one, so we've got, oh my gosh, hang on here. Oh, okay, it's strange. Sometimes they have it numbered, sometimes bullet pointed. And I was trying to get clear on, is the bullet point a part of the number? All right, so first, strength, right? You're gonna build strength. Kind of like with aerobic or cardiovascular exercise. Cardiovascular is like the keyword there. Strength training, strength's keyword. So that's an obvious one. But then we have protects bone health and muscle mass, keep the weight off, chronic disease management, boost energy levels and improve your mood. We have cardiovascular health benefits, decrease risk of injury, reduce cancer risk, strengthen mental health, improve flexibility and mobility, and boost brain health. I feel like that's similar, maybe redundant to strengthen mental health. But anyway, you get the picture. So I'll just read that one more time. We got strengthening, protecting bone health and muscle mass, keeping the weight off, chronic disease management, boosting energy levels and improving mood, cardiovascular health benefits, decrease risk of injury, reducing cancer risk, strengthen mental health, improve your flexibility and mobility, and then boost brain health. So here's what's interesting. I don't know if you guys, as you're listening to this, but you might be noticing that these sound very similar. There are some differences, but they're very, very similar. For example, both talk about cardiovascular health. Both of them, strength training and cardio, talk about reducing risk of injury because you're strengthening yourself, forcing your joints, some muscle mass. Because you do build some muscle when you do cardio, right? It's not only cardiovascular and breathing and all that stuff. They both talk about managing weight. They both talk about reducing or managing, chronic disease. So the one worded it as strengthening the immune system and reducing chronic pain, and the other said chronic disease management. But I mean, they're kind of in the similar same realms there. They both talk about helping your energy. They both talk about mental health benefits, or brain benefits, I should say. And again, reducing risk of injury. I may have said that one already. So over 2/3 of the bullet points, maybe worded differently, but basically agree with each other. So there's a lot of overlap. So that's interesting. So it makes it seem like, all right, it doesn't really matter. Just pick what you like. Sort of. The most important thing I will say is we should pick what we do like to do because we're going to be more consistent with it, and therefore we engage in activity more in our lives. It's probably a good thing instead of doing nothing, right? So we just say that. So there's a lot of overlap, but there are some differences. Before I get ahead of myself here, I came up with the outline so I can keep my thoughts a little more organized for you guys. I just want to make sure I don't kind of go in circles and kind of lose us all here, including myself. So, all right. Some of the differences, let's talk about, so the main topic of today, kind of look at the questions. Let's look at the first one. Which one's better for weight loss? They both say they're good for weight loss, so which one's better, right? So here's what's interesting. According to, in my own reading, if you're wondering where am I pulling this from, in a book I read called Bigger, Leaner, Stronger by Michael Matthews. I wouldn't read him for dietary advice or for like functional medicine advice. That's not really his market or audience. But he has a lot, but his overall thoughts, diet and otherwise, I mean, for the average population is still pretty darn decent. But from the exercise standpoint, I think he has some really interesting points in that book, Bigger, Leaner, Stronger. The other thing is there's a podcast I occasionally love listening to by a group of guys called Mind Pump Media. If you guys have never listened to it before, do watch for the little ears. They do use language. They can be a bit kooky at times, but they've been in the fitness industry for a while, have learned from their mistakes. I'm going to share one of the stories I remember they shared in one of their podcasts. I think it'd be find funny. So anyway, so a couple of those areas, as I've been listening to some of these guys are reading about this topic. Here's what's emerging. What's emerging is cardiovascular. So we think about weight loss, we just keep the variables simple. We look at metabolism and how much energy you're burning versus your activity. So calories into your body versus the calories your body burns off. So it does depend on activity level. It does depend on our metabolism, okay? There's a lot of things that affect our metabolism. We have to remember that. So that can be internal chemistry too. Like if your metabolism is thrown off because your thyroid's off, right? Or you have insulin resistance, or your adrenals are tanked. I mean, hormone. I mean, there's a lot of things that affect metabolism. So if we were to just go with a very simple scenario, we have this theoretical person whose health is totally perfect and fine. There's nothing out of whack with their metabolism, their hormones, and all these other systems, right? I say theoretical because most of us have something going on, right? Their health, because that's the world we live in. But let's pretend that's our person, right? So we keep the variable simple. But again, this can apply to anybody. Cardio is going to burn more calories typically than a strength training session in the short term. So I know there's a lot of variables here, but if we were to take 30 minutes of a decent pace jog, you're going for a run, 30 minutes. Contrast that to a person who's 30 minutes at the gym or at home, rotating around doing some sets with weights. Okay, so again, the typical, I'm not talking about a CrossFit or like high intensity, like, supersets. We're doing one thing, we're going to the next thing, and we're just going. I'm talking about, kind of a more relaxed strength training session. Like, hey, I did a set, and then maybe I did a set of this exercise, rest for a minute or two. All right, I'm going to do my next set, and after 30 minutes, okay? That jogging is probably typically going to be burning more calories than the 30 minutes you just did of the strength training, which is why a lot of times it's confusing. It says, hey, you want to lose weight, do cardio, because of that aspect. However, what about long term? And here's what's interesting. Long term, strength training is emerging to be very much the better winner for a couple reasons. Okay. Number one, strength training in the long term, by working on reinforcing and building muscle mass. And when I say muscle mass, I don't mean you're going to get big and stocky. I mean, you don't have to have a massively changed or bulky physique to get a decent amount of muscle put on, and strengthening, and along with that, burn some fat along the way. But muscle mass is the primary tissue that produces energy, right? More muscle muscles are richer in mitochondria. Mitochondria are kind of the powerhouse, the building factories for ATP and for creating energy. Where do we get the energy from? Well, our metabolism is a regular driver to that system of how much or little energy we're getting, right? So our metabolism needs to go up to go along with the muscle we have. So that's just a very rudimentary kind of layman's terms, best way I can kind of think of it and describe it for myself too. Basically, more muscle means burning more energy. So what this means is, although you might have burned fewer calories and maybe lost less weight in the moment for that actual workout, doing it day after day or week after week, month after month, you're going to be increasing the strength training much more than the cardio, your base metabolic rate, i.e. the amount of calories or energy your body burns or produces naturally just by being alive and breathing. All right, sitting on the chair and not even doing anything for that day. Now, of course, you do that long term, then things are going to change, but just in a moment, right? So think about this. What would be, so that's the main thing there of why actually strength training for if weight loss, weight management, in addition to a whole bunch of other benefits, can actually be better in the long run. And let me ask you this, what's probably easier, sustaining 30, 45 minutes plus of cardio that, again, if it's not your favorite thing, but you're doing it for the benefits or for losing weight, doing that and burning, gosh, I forget the numbers, 200 calories, 300 calories maybe, versus, but that's mainly the calorie burn, right? Versus naturally burning day after day 50 to 100 more calories because your metabolism's up a tick or two. You're going to find it's easier, both for sanity purposes and habit purposes, to sustain the strength training one. Typically, it's easier to again be able to stick to not such a feeling as intensive or hard on your body exercise like cardio can be for some people. and just doing some strengthening. And again, building some muscle, you're getting some stronger, your metabolism goes up, and you're naturally burning a little bit more calories on a day after day after day basis. That builds up over time, and it's kind of a forward momentum. Hope that makes sense. So bottom line is short term, cardio will burn more calories in a moment than in a workout than strength training typically. But strength training is going to be better in the long term. Plus, you might not have to feel like you're, busting yourself to the limits all the time to sustain that. So that's interesting. Very interesting. The best, so not to get too much down the rabbit hole, but what helps build strength is the level of resistance. All right. Giving more resistance, and our body realizes, gee, that's a lot of resistance. We need to build more muscle so we can move that in the future. Right. So, according to some experts and with Mike Matthews in his book, they often like to emphasize lower amount of repetitions and higher weight, because again, you're signaling your body, this is a lot of force to move around. Let's build muscle, versus doing light weights, but a lot of repetitions of it. All right. So anyway, that's kind of going into a whole other topic, and I don't want to get too sidetracked on that, but it's interesting, isn't it? It's definitely different, probably, from how a lot of us have grown up thinking about exercise and weight loss, and just even the patterns in fitness history. So it's been cool to see, voice crack there. It's been cool to see how, as more science and literature comes out, how that helps. I'm not going to talk much about HIITs today, high intensity interval training sessions, because I know that can be a very kind of a cardio. It's an interesting one. It's cardio, but it's strengthening because you're doing things fast, helps with weight loss. But I think it's a little bit of a different animal. So I'm not really focusing on that much today. Just looking at steady state cardio, jogging, cycling, that kind of stuff versus strength training. All right. So is strength training superior to cardio then? No, it's not. Overall, and this is just my thoughts from what I've learned, maybe you've heard differently, and I'd be curious for your guys' thoughts and your experience, and put in the comments. It seems like when we just look at a health standpoint, we're not looking at what do you actually enjoy doing and what do you want to train your body to be able to do, but just from a health standpoint, if you just do exercises and workouts mainly just for your health and not really interested in anything else, it's not a hobby for you, it doesn't help you then to do certain sports or recreation. We're just being very bland here. Probably it seems like the ideal regimen is to have a more consistent, more frequent strength training and some cardio to go along with that throughout the week, versus more cardio and less strengthening. Okay. So with that said, because again, a lot of the benefits overlap, but do note both are important. So we can't say just strength training is the best. Like if you're listening to me, it might sound like, so basically, Dan, you think strength training is the best one, right? I do like that more, but we can't just do the only thing. So here's a story I was going to mention that was kind of funny. The best I can recall, one of the podcasts from those Mind Pump guys, they were talking about, so there's a similar question came up, and one of the guys was talking about there was a phase in their fitness, and they were in the fitness industry, they're trainers, and there was a point where they did zero cardio. They're like, we're leaning just totally into strengthening, bulking up, getting huge, and and just kind of thinking, okay, yeah, like cardio, you don't need it, just do the strengthening. And they were looking back and kind of laughing, and one of the guys is like, oh my gosh, so he was I don't know if this is a side gig or it was probably a part of some of his day work, as a fitness trainer, but he was working with seniors, and not high school seniors, but seniors. And there was a track, and they were doing some laps, and he's kind of, coaching them along. And if I remember right, long story short, basically he encouraged, he's like, hey, do another, your challenger, do another like 2 laps today or something. And then one of the guys or one of the ladies is like, I don't, I don't see you going with it. Like, you go with us too, kind of calling him out. Like, and he wasn't moving much. And so the mind pump guy, he's like, at that moment you're called out and you're the trainer, right? I mean, you can't back down from that. So he realized too, he's like, in that moment he realized, I haven't done like any card, like I haven't like jogged in a long time. I forget how long it was. It was months or it was a year or two. Probably not too long, but he was definitely had not done any of that in a long time. And so he's like, okay, so he's at the front of the crew leading the charge. And he was like, I hit it as best I could, but I was dying within no time. And oh my gosh, like his body was so not trained for that. And it was a very clear moment in his life, in his health journey, realizing, yes, there are some important things we're missing if we completely neglect the cardio. So please do both and don't just do one or just the other. And why is that? So again, I mean, even if when we do certain motions we haven't done in a while, even if we have the most rigorous strength training regimen, there's always small muscles that we miss, that by going for, like, if we never jog, even though we're doing strengthening, working our calves and all these other muscles, if we go for a jog, we're still going to feel something get work that wasn't, because of a certain adapted form of movement there. So there's that part, but the cardiovascular and the breathing, he was so out of breath. And again, strength training helps with strengthening, cardio not so much, just a little bit. Cardio, you're going to get more of the cardiovascular health benefits. You're going to have better lung capacity. You're going to be breathing more. You're going to heart rate up. And that's really important because we need that cardiovascular benefit for helping condition our bodies for good blood flow, to get oxygen moving around. And what the guys found is, now that they learned from they're kind of learning from their mistakes here, is that they found that their strength training workouts, the resistance workouts, were enhanced and they improved there when they threw in some cardiovascular exercise in their regimen, because they had better oxygen flow and blood flow, which is important for strength training too, right? So it all works together. It all works together. So so that's just a couple of things I thought I'd just share today. It's going back to our questions as we start to wrap up. Which is better for weight loss, strength training or cardio? If you had to pick only one, strength training. It's better in the long term. Cardio, though, is shorter, burns more calories in a single session. But in terms of as a lifestyle, an ongoing routine, strength training is going to do more. And also probably mentally feel easier to keep on with. Now, for overall health, you need both. You can't completely neglect one and have a full picture of health from a physical standpoint. You need both. And as we saw, a lot of benefits overlap with each other. Maybe some are slightly more emphasized, but a lot of them overlap. So do both. And then lastly, so what's your next step from here? Well, let me just say this. I threw in this point earlier. Here's what I emphasize. If we're not doing any exercise movement in our life, many of us are in that position. I kind of am right now, actually, to be honest. To be perfectly honest with you guys, where I'm at in life right now, this year, things have changed 2 or 3 times with my physical exercise routines. And right now, I'm keeping on with getting a 20-minute walk in every morning, and then maybe another shorter walk in later in the day. I'm getting 30 minutes of movement. I'm not really running. I'm not getting my heart rate up, and I'm definitely not getting any strengthening in. So I just want to be transparent and let you guys know I'm not perfect. None of us are. And if we think we're perfect, there's probably something going on, right? So let me just say that, and do what you can, right? So if you're not moving at all, anything is going to be a movement forward. Don't get hung up on, well, strengthening ought to be better, but I don't even know how to approach that. So and then you're stuck. It's like, just do something, get moving. If it's walking, great. If you're like, you know what, Dan, I hear you on some of the strength training stuff. Maybe that like gets me to some of the benefits I want to see, but I've never done it before, or I don't really like doing it, but I can go for a jog. Great, do that. Do what what's easier for you, you gravitate toward. And then if you feel like you're really rich in that certain area, like let's say you're really great in cardio, but you know you've totally neglected another realm of movement, like strength training. Okay, then that'd be time to then kind of move into exploring that more. Because I will say this: the disadvantage of strength training is it takes um, uh, going into it, it takes more skill and practice to do it right. There's form to consider, so you do things in the right way. And actually, I mean, there is important form to running as well. A lot of us don't run the right way, or we wear equipment that messes up our footing. And I will say that it's not like there's no such thing as form to running. There is, but if we're talking to somebody who's at a beginner or casual level of movement in their life, the strength training is going to have a higher learning curve. I will admit that, and that's one of the advantages of cardio. Again, accessibility and affordability too. Strength training, you probably need some equipment. If not, you need to know specific techniques, exercises to use, no equipment, and all that stuff. So you can appreciate there's pros and cons to both cardio and strength training, both together important. But the blend together of making sure, I think for a lot of us, um, unless strength training is something we like to do because it's like a hobby or it's a stress reliever for us, I think what I've noticed in a lot of people I've talked to is there's usually little to no strength training, and movement's basically walking or some kind of cardio. And therefore, strength training is a big area of opportunity a lot of us are missing. And that's why I kind of wanted to kind of throw in some of these interesting curveballs in discussion today to bring that up. And I hope it excites and intrigues some of you guys, and be like, wow, and I never realized that. Now you're like, let's do this. So all that said, let's do both, but whatever you can be consistent with and grow and develop in, that's the most important thing. So stick to that first and then branch out from there. So what's our question of the day? What's our challenge of the day as we wrap up Wellness Week, July 2021? Question of the day that Natalie, our other health coach, is going to post for you guys very soon here on this community group Facebook page is strength training an area of opportunity in your life? What would be one thing you need that would help you to incorporate it, right? Do you need resources? Do you need know-how? Do you need time? What do you need? I want you to take a moment to be able to reflect for yourself. Give your moment of pause and consider that. Now, the flip side for the question of the day, for those of you guys who already do strength training, you're not new to this, you're not coming back into it, you already do it. If you only do strength training, what would be one thing you would need that would help you to incorporate some cardio to go along with that, or to make your workout faster pace so you get some of that cardio in your strength training? All right. So whatever side of the coin you're on of not really doing much strength training, what's an opportunity there? And for those of you who solely just do strength training, how can you get a little bit more your heart rate up, get more cardio in to the mix? All right. So the challenge for this week and probably today, tomorrow, because the week's almost over, but doesn't matter. You can do you do it anytime. If strength training is an area of opportunity for you, so those of you guys who identify with that, hey, I think this is a missing piece in my health puzzle. Try one day this week of doing 3 or more exercises that you feel you can safely do from this specific video. So to get access to the video, you're going to want you to post the question of the day so that Natalie will then send you our little ebook or resource sheet. If you don't post on there, you won't get it. So please post and share your thoughts in the comments. But it's basically I mean, there's a lot of great YouTube videos out there. This is not my content. This is somebody else's content. I thought they did a great job, and I wanted to highlight it. But it's 20 isometric exercises that anyone can do with no equipment. That's the title of it. There are a couple that maybe some can't do, or I wouldn't recommend if you're a beginner. Isometric exercise is basically a way to strength train with no equipment, and you don't need much room. It's where you're holding positions, and then you're just holding that position with your working muscles. So this is an isometric exercise. I'm pulling So I am working my muscles, but there's no actual motion happening. My joints are not in motion. If I'm holding a lunge position, holding that lunge position takes strength, even though you're not actually in motion. That's what isometric exercises are. So see if you can pick three and just try them out or incorporate into your routine, just to kind of learn something new and try something. That's my challenge for you guys today and this week. All right. Well, I haven't seen, unless it's a super duper delay or something's broken in my Facebook, I haven't seen any comments in our live chat. If you guys watch this later, I hope this is encouraging, helpful to you in some way, that you learned something new that you can apply to your life. And if you have questions, and again, just thoughts and comments, post in the comments here. Look for the question of the day so you can get resources to you guys. And if you are, definitely not a novice to all of this, you have some experience and knowledge to share, please do so. This is a group we want you guys to be able to make an impact to others, and others can make an impact for you, to you. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to just share some of my time with you today. And thanks for listening. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.